Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Dapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyabari Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, welcome to our continued discussion of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7. And this week we'll be discussing verses 7.9 through 7.19. 7.8 to 7.19. We left off on verse 7 last week. So, Krishna is explaining in this section that there are three different ways to see Krishna everywhere. For the devotees who are already attached to Krishna, it means that the non-devotees, they'll not see Krishna, as we'll see here towards the end of this section. But for the devotees, they'll be able to see Krishna in three different ways. One, will see all that is in the material world, both matter and spirit, as one of Krishna's energies. Everything is either his apara or para shakti. Two, how Krishna is the essence of everything. The things that are satisfying to us in this world, Krishna is that essence. He is the taste of water, the heat of fire, the intelligence of the intelligent, which means that Krishna is the essential principle of our life. Without fire, what we can do, right? Whatever we create, it requires some intelligence. So he is the cause of everything, not us. So it brings us to this very logical conclusion that we can see Krishna's potency in everything as the enabler for each and everything we do. So he is the essential principle. And finally, he is the controller of everything. And so everything is happening under his jurisdiction. So this is a very powerful revelation that Krishna is revealing in the very beginning of this section of Bhagavad Gita, of how we can easily remember and think of Krishna in all circumstances. And this is very tangible or practical, because in all walks of life, we realize then that we are never separated from Krishna. He is non-different from his energies. And thus, we can attain this highest position of bhakti, of being constantly in remembrance of him. So these verses are very, very powerful and important to make a very clear understanding in our head that Krishna is everywhere, present through his inferior and superior energies. So that is the section. So this section specifically now will be talking about how Krishna is the essence of everything. So we've already discussed in last week how he was earth, air, fire, water, ether, intelligence, false ego, and mind, the 8 material elements. That is his apara shakti. And beyond that, there is the jiva, the living entity, which is made up of his para shakti, his superior energy, which is marginal, as we discussed last week. So now Krishna is going to discuss how he is the essence of everything. So in verse 8, he says, O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. So here we see how he is, in addition to being the source or the cause of everything, he is also the essence of it. So Krishna here, he can be perceived initially, and I emphasize initially, by his different energies. This is realizing his impersonal feature, such as being in the taste of water or the heat. While we know this is not the ultimate realization of Krishna, the personalist recognizes that there is an impersonal presence in things such as the taste of water of Krishna, but also at the same time glorifies that the Lord as a person is the provider of the water. So simultaneously, and Srila Prabhupada explains this very important point, that the devotee understands the impersonal presence of Krishna, as in the taste of water, while understanding that it is Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is actually providing the water. So one can see the simultaneous impersonal and personal conception in all things. There's no contradiction. It is not an either or. They're both present. And the devotee, by understanding these verses, is realizing this. And, Prabhupada gives the example of the sun. One can perceive the sun shine, but offer their respects to the sun god, who is the administrator for the sun planet. So there is a person behind that. So similarly, the devotees, by understanding Krishna to be the taste of water, because we're going to see that while he is the essence of everything, he remains independent and present in his eternal form. So what we are seeing here are the impersonal features of the Lord, but the devotee always ties it back, as in the taste of water, with that it is Krishna himself who is providing the water. And he becomes present within the water as the essence of the taste, as well as actually the water being one of his energies. So here, what we are understanding is that there is essential ingredients in the different things that we need in life. Right? So we say Krishna has already explained that he is the source of water, one of the 5 gross elements. But not only is he the source of the water, it's one of his apara shakti, but now he is saying he is the taste of that water as well. Now we think, wait a minute, isn't water tasteless? It has no taste? Actually, there is a taste. That taste which quenches our thirst, that is Krishna alone. If one is very, very thirsty, actually it is only water that will quench their thirst. It is only water. And that taste is Krishna, that pure taste. And actually we can extrapolate that further, that everything that is satisfying to us, that is coming from Krishna. He is the satisfying element in everything. He is the source of light. From his effulgence, the Brahman effulgence, we get all light, even in this material world. So the light comes from Krishna. The Om syllable. All mantras, even the Karma Kanda Prasika mantras, they're based on Krishna, because Krishna is the syllable Om in all the Vedic mantras. Ether. ether is an element that carries sound. So each sound we hear is due to Krishna. Are we perceiving Krishna in every sound we hear? That is a fact. Krishna is saying he's the ability in man. Our ability is the main quality we possess. When someone can do extraordinary things, they have great ability to run very fast, we know their name. If they have the ability to invent some neat machine or some new medicine, we know their name. If somebody has some ability to lift, big weights, we know them. If they have the ability to hit a cricket ball very, very far, we know their name. If they have the ability to sing very beautifully, we know their name. So these abilities is what we aspire to possess. And where do those abilities come from? It is Krishna's gift. So whatever we have, whatever ability we have, if it's coming from Krishna, then we should see to use it for Krishna in his service. He is giving the ability, and he also can take it away very quickly. So to see how he is the essence of everything, it shows us our dependence on Krishna. We can't live without water. Imagine life without light. Okay? So this is all Krishna's gift to us. And the only question is, are we appreciating it? Are we appreciating how he is not only the source of everything, but he is the essential satisfying principle within everything, like the taste of water. Why it becomes so thirst quenching? Because the presence of Krishna as the taste of water. So Krishna goes on to say, I am the original fragrance of the earth. I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives. I am the penance of all ascetics. The fragrance of earth. Krishna said he is earth, and now he is saying he is the fragrance of it. The pure smell of earth is very, very pleasing. Where does the flower get its fragrance? You put a dull seed into dull soil, and out comes a fragrant flower that captivates the mind. The next time we smell a flower offered to the Lord, let us remember it is Krishna alone who is the source of that fragrance. He is that fragrance. And there's so much variety of fragrance. You put two different flower seeds next to each other in the same soil with the same water, same sunlight, and out come will two different fragrances. Now, how is that possible? How is that possible? By the presence of Krishna as that fragrance. So, heat. Krishna says he is a heat and fire. What is the value of heat in our life? We're experiencing high heat right now, so some may be lamenting. But heat is incredibly powerful. You cannot cook foods without heat. No dal, no sabjis, no chapatis. No, without heat. Forget about cooking foods. You can say, oh, I'll eat raw foods. You can't even digest foods without heat in the stomach. That heat in the stomach is Krishna. Actually, the digestive enzymes found in the stomach are not found anywhere else on this planet. So Krishna is a source. What can we make in a factory? Think about how much heat is required to melt certain products and reform them, to power all the different machineries that make all the things that we go and buy at the stores. Without the heat created by combustion to drive all these machineries and transform these products, what we would do. So Krishna is this essential principle of our life. All the things that we enjoy, it is coming from Krishna. Are we appreciating and recognizing it? Thus Krishna is speaking these verses. Sometimes when you read these verses initially, I know when I read them, I was like, why is he saying he's a taste of water? The heat of light. What is the point of that? The point of it is to get us to understand he is this essential principle in everything that is satisfying to us. O son of Pratha, verse 10. Know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful man. Who is the source? Krishna. He is the bijam, the seed of everything. Everything is maintained by him. As the root of a tree maintains a giant tree, Krishna is the seed of all existence. So, he is giving us the intelligence, the power, everything by him alone. Whatever we create with our intelligence, it is Krishna's facilities. And we should use it with him, not without. And we see how fragile it can be. You know, big, CEO of a company. I remember he had built this giant company, giant business, had run it for almost 25 years. And I actually knew this person and the company. And after 3 decades of building this business with great intelligence, it was a brilliant company. It was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he was getting ready to sell it. And about a month before he was going to close on the sale, he had a massive stroke and died. That ability to build that was given by Krishna. And it was also taken away. So it is fragile. So we should understand that Krishna is ever present in our lives. And we are ever dependent on him. So when things are happening, we should recognize who is the provisioning master of all. We think we are celebrating Independence Day today. What is independence? When we are fully dependent on the Supreme Lord. Oh, let us surrender. Number 11, verse 11. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of Bharatas, Arjuna. These opulences attract us. Strength, intelligence, fame, beauty. Right? When someone is very strong or beautiful or intelligent, we become attracted to them. Well, Krishna is the source of this. He is the strength of the strong. He is that essential principle that is attractive. Why is beauty attractive? Because Krishna is the beauty. So imagine how attractive we must be to Krishna. He possesses all of these in full. Unlimited storehouse of these opulences. He has them completely. How attractive he must be when we begin to approach him. 12. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So now, Krishna is describing how he is the controller of everything. So he's established, he is the source and the essence. We've discussed those so far in this chapter. And now in this 12th verse, he explains he is also the controller of everything. How is he the controller? The material modes of nature are moving everything. They're like moving strings in a puppet. Everything we want to do are carried out by the modes of nature. And who controls the modes? Krishna. He is the creator of the modes of material nature. Just like in this picture on the right. Who is standing above the modes? The Supreme Lord. So Krishna is the source and the controller of the modes. But he is not controlled by them. They are his servant. So even when Krishna descends to the material world, he is not subject to the laws of material nature. Just as a king, Prabhupada writes, is creating laws in his kingdom. But the king, when he's walking through his kingdom, is not subject to those laws. He can do whatever he wants. He is independent of those laws. So Krishna has created the laws of nature, and the modes are carrying them out, but he is not subject to them. Thus he reminds us, I am not under the modes of material nature. Now, why does Krishna say he is independent? He says, I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. Because Krishna wants to confirm and make sure we understand that while he is present in everything, he still exists separately in his eternal form. So though we are perceiving his impersonal presence in all of these things, he has not become diluted or he is not transformed into all of these energies. They are expansions from him. He remains himself complete. Right? Purnameva Vashishyate. Though so many things are emanating from him, he remains the complete whole. So he is not converted into impersonal. No. It is connected and also separated at the same time. So this is this Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva understanding, this simultaneously oneness and difference. So we should understand that while we are appreciating and perceiving the impersonal feature, Krishna remains eternally present in his personal form. Two-armed, threefold bending, curly hair, beautiful cheeks, and hue of the blackish new rain cloud. Always present. Though we can perceive him through all of these different ways. So let us never confuse that matter. So of course, we must be wondering, I hope we are wondering, why don't we see this? It's so obvious. Why doesn't everyone see Krishna as this source, this essence, this controller? Why don't we give him credit for what we have done? Why are we all blind to it? Krishna is now going to explain that in the next two verses. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Inexhaustible means he is never depleted. Though he is creating, his energies are present everywhere. He is creating. His storehouse is always full, as we learn in that very famous invocation verse of the Shirsh Upanishad. He always remains the complete whole, Purnam. So why we don't see this? We are deluded by the modes of material nature. We are bewildered. We are in the quagmire of the modes of nature, subject to the illusory potency of Maya. And thus don't see who is controlling everything, who is the essence, and who is the source. And why did we become deluded this way? Because we had envy of Krishna. And we had envy of Krishna, we wanted to try to be separate from him. So Krishna created this very heavy illusion so that we don't see his presence everywhere. We don't perceive his presence everywhere. Even though it's there, he created this illusion because we wanted to try to be separate from him. Though we can never factually be separated from him because he is the source of everything, he is the essence of everything, the controller. But because we wanted to try to experience life in this way, he created this heavy illusion. So who is the source of the illusion? It is Krishna. But who is the, why it happened? Because of our desires. So to fulfill our desires, to try to experience life separate from him, he has put this on. So then how to get free If now we know, wait a minute, whoop, made a mistake, don't want that, what do we do? This divine energy of mind, verse 14, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Very powerful verse Krishna is giving here. The material modes, they're difficult to overcome. But in the same sense, Krishna says they're easy to overcome. So let's see. How is it difficult to overcome, but easy to cross? So first of all, we see Daivi Hesha. That this energy, the material modes, are called divine. We sometimes think, oh, these modes of nature, they're so evil. Maya, they're so difficult, giving me so much trouble. But they are divine energies. Why? Because they are serving and under the control of the supreme divine, Krishna. They are Krishna's servants. So how to overcome this? Mameva ye prapadyante. Krishna is saying, surrender to me. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is saying, Krishna is pounding, it's just saying, surrender to me. Emphatically. Saying, this is the only way. Must serve Krishna. Becoming Brahman or Paramatma realized, one will not overcome the modes of material nature even. One must do devotional service to Krishna as Bhagavan. Why can't we be free of these modes by worshipping even Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or some demigods? Because they are also under the control. If one's hands are tied, then one cannot untie somebody else. Only one whose hands are untied can then go out and free everybody else. So if one is bound by the modes, they cannot free somebody else from the modes. So, only Krishna and his representatives, the spiritual master, can free one from the modes of material nature. So Krishna is saying, those who have surrendered unto me, not just those who have surrendered, but surrendered unto me. This is the only way to gain relief from the material world. And these modes are called gunas. Guna means ropes. These ropes intertwine and create a strong bind. And they tie us to this material world. There are chains keeping us locked to this prison house of the material world. And what's interesting, even though we are spirit, we are of Parashakti, the superior energy, the higher energy, we become overpowered by the inferior Aparashakti. Why? Because our desires. We have become conditioned by material nature, and it subdues the potential of our superior power. Though the jiva is of Parashakti, the superior energy, it becomes bound by this inferior energy, the Aparashakti. So now, the modes are difficult to overcome, but Krishna says easy. We have to emphasize, can easily cross beyond it. Why easy? When one surrenders to Krishna, he can order the release, free from bondage of material nature. Right? It may be very difficult to escape the deep security prison walls, climb the heavy fences, cross over the thick barbed wire. Maybe there's some deep trenches and ditches. All these things, locks that we don't know how to open. Very difficult. But if the prison warden simply escorts us out the prison, it becomes very easy. So on the one hand, it's very difficult to escape. But on the one hand, it's very easy. So similarly, with Krishna, he can easily order our release. Oh, Devi Hesha, my divine energy, please release my child from your grip. So Krishna can make it happen. His energies will always follow his instructions. So what does he do? He shrinks this giant ocean of material energy into the size of a hoof print of a calf. So one can easily cross over. He shrinks it when we do devotional service, when we surrender to Krishna. So yes, while it is difficult to overcome, nobody can cross an ocean without great difficulty. Krishna can shrink that ocean if we ask him to, if we surrender to him. So this is how one can get beyond this delusion. The choice is ours. Now still, people don't surrender. We have the 4 types of miscreants in verse 15. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So we've discussed why they don't surrender, due to illusion, and now we see the different types of persons who surrender, who do not surrender. First, the Muddha. Everyone, before we get into these individuals, remember one thing. Everybody is looking for freedom from the modes of material nature. Who is not trying to become free from disease, from death, from old age? Everyone. Who is not trying to become free from the miseries of the mind and body, of miseries of natural disasters? Every single person is looking for freedom from the modes. It's so easily available, as we heard in the last verse, by surrendering to Krishna. But so much energy and effort is being put by so-called intelligent people through scientific research, through so-called technological advancements, through so-called political arrangements of societies. But nobody is making progress in becoming free from old age and death and disease. Because the means to become free is not being followed. Krishna says, Ma'amiva ye prapadyante, surrender unto me. And instead, everyone is surrendering to their false ego. So, many don't do it, are not able to become free. And there are 4 types described here. The Muddha, the grossly foolish. Those are so materially attached. Prabhupada writes, the symbol of the grossly foolish is the ass, the donkey. Working so hard, day and night, being tormented by their master, just for a belly full of grass. Even all day they are walking to and fro, and they are passing fields and fields of grass. Yet it is slaving away, working so hard for its master, just to enjoy some grass. This is the materially person who is so engrossed in trying to acquire some temporary material fruits that they have no time for inquiring about the eternal spiritual truths. So busy working for some temporary wealth and fame and other material wealth without understanding there are eternal spiritual benefits readily available to them without having to work so hard. Thus, they become very foolish, just as a swine or a hog is enjoying eating stool and trash. And that swine misses the delicacies of gulab jamuns and samosas. Similarly, the grossly foolish are trying to eat the fruits of the material world and missing the bliss of devotional life. Trying to enjoy matter instead of spirit. So this is the Muddha. The Naradama, lowest of mankind. They know something about social and political situations, but they don't practice anything. They become very civilized, high class, Brahmana births or aristocratic families. As we saw in chapter 6, one who doesn't finish the process gets a nice start. So they've done some devotion, but they've given it all up because they didn't think it will help them achieve their material goals in life. So they're too materially attached. They did something for some time, and thus they got these high births, but they've thrown it all away. And the worst is that they know about it, know about Krishna, but they've rejected it, and thus no surrender. This is the lowest of all mankind. The Maya Praktikya Gyan. These miscreants, they don't surrender to Krishna either, because they consider Krishna to be some ordinary human. They reject his position as the source and essence and controller of everything. They actually acquire so much knowledge as philosophers, scientists, poets. They've studied Shastra, mostly the atheistic Sankhya philosophy, but no devotion. And actually, Maya has stolen their intelligence. They're very proud of their so-called intelligence, but no devotion and no surrender to Krishna. So the Muda doesn't surrender to Krishna, no time. The Naradama has rejected Krishna, having understood something at one point. And the Maya Praktikya Gyan, their knowledge, intelligence has been stolen by Maya. And then we have the outright demons. Those with a demoniac mentality. They are atheists who are overtly against Krishna. They fight with Krishna. They hate Krishna. They even try to shoot arrows at him. Certainly there is no surrender by these overt demons. So Prabhupada gives a very long purport, very detailed, beautiful purport to these types of miscreants. Now, Krishna then describes those who are beginning to surrender. In verse 16, O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. So 4 types of souls surrender. They are in the beginning process. The Arta, one in distress. When we are in distress, we often go to Krishna. And the famous example of such a story, the story of Gajendra. Many years, he tried to free himself from the crocodile. But after not finding any success, he then offered the lotus flower to Krishna and surrendered to Krishna. Next, the one in need of wealth, Arta Arti. Dhruva Maharaj is a great example of that. He went to perform austerities in the forest to acquire a kingdom greater than even his grandfather. So, he went and he met Narada Muni and surrendered to Krishna. But his desire initially was for wealth. The Jignasu, one who is inquisitive. They're curious. So they approach Krishna to satisfy their curiosity. Not to satisfy Krishna, but to satisfy their curiosity about the soul. And Shonaka Rishi is given as an example there, who's asking about the self, but not yet about Krishna. Then the Jnani, the wise. They approach Krishna to obtain knowledge about the Supreme. Right? So, Shukadeva Goswami is given as an example here. He wouldn't leave the womb until Krishna had promised shelter from Maya. The 4 Kumaras are another. So they are searching for knowledge of the absolute truth without any desire. So the first 3, the Arta, the Artarthi, and the Jignasu, they have some material desire. So it's not pure. It's called Karma Mishra Bhakti. They're doing devotional service, but it's mixed with this desire. And the danger is that when their desire gets fulfilled, they may leave. They may then go back. So it's best not to approach with a desire, but Krishna is going to explain this further about how they're still very magnanimous. Because there's the opportunity to come to the position of the wise and eventually come to the position of pure devotional service. So the jnani here is in this jnana mishra bhakta. It is nishkam in the sense that it is free of material desires, but it is not yet completely pure devotional service. Because they're not approaching Krishna only to please Krishna. There is the desire to obtain some knowledge. So it's not a material desire, but there is still a desire. So how do they become pure? Prabhupada writes at the end of the purport, by association with a pure devotee. Dhruva Maharaj became pure by his association and instruction from Narada Muni. So one purifies from this preliminary state to the position of pure devotional service by the mercy of the devotee. So now Krishna will say, who is the best? Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I'm very dear to him, and he is dear to me. One in full knowledge, the jnani, the wise. Now this is not the jnani yogi, who is just interested in knowledge of spirit and matter and mental speculation. This jnani is interested in knowing about Krishna. So it is different from the jnani yogi. This is one who has abandoned the path of jnana yoga and has come to the path of bhakti. Remember, we are in the section of bhakti yoga. But they're called a jnani because they're interested in knowledge about Krishna. Krishna uses the word eka bhakti here. So this engaged only in devotional service. So there are no material desires. And Krishna says, this person is very dear to me. A very strong statement. How much love Krishna has for his devotee. He reciprocates with our love. It is not a one-way street, but a two-way street. So then one may ask, well, what about the other three? Are they not pious either? No, Krishna says, all these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls. But he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain the highest and most perfect goal. So Krishna is saying, no, they're all magnanimous. They're all pious souls. Why? Because at least they came to approach Krishna. Even though they had some desire, separate from Krishna, they approached him. And Krishna will purify their desires so that they will attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So he will help them purify to come to the platform of pure bhakti. That is why they are very pious. So if you are stuck with desires, it's still recommended you approach Krishna, so that you can come to the highest platform of being anyabilashita shunyam jnanakamadi navritam, free of all desires. That is the highest platform. And when they become pure devotees, they become even more dear to Krishna than himself. He gives himself to his pure devotee, as we saw in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay? So, the jnani, though, let's just make sure we understand, is not yet pure, because there is some desire to acquire knowledge. It's not a material desire. But they're not pure in the sense their only goal is not to please Krishna. There's still some thirst to quench of their own. But this person will purify. And, this is why Krishna says, be engaged in my transcendental service. By continuing to do bhakti, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So he'll come to this highest platform. Why? Because doing bhakti with no material desires, they will purify very quickly. They're very close to this topmost platform. The other three have to relinquish their material desires by the practice of bhakti. So there's a little bit more work to do. But this jnani is very close to this high platform, where one becomes very dear to Krishna. So how long is this process? Krishna says in the 19th verse then, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes in all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So it is very rare. It can take many, many births to go by this step-by-step process of self-realization. Have to progress through many stages. And it's rare to complete them all. We need the fortune of good association to keep going and push us forward. To avoid becoming satisfied by some interim step. So these middle 6 chapters, they're speaking how to become free from this karma and jnana desires, so that one can practice pure devotional service. Krishna's going to tell us, come straight, directly to pure devotional service. Yes, it is rare, but by the fortune of coming in association with the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada is making this available to us. So this complete absorption of consciousness in full surrender to Krishna, this is the purest bhakti. Nothing else in existence besides Krishna is in the view of the pure devotee. And thus, they have clearly surrendered to Krishna. They have overcome material nature. So when we understand Krishna to be everything, the essence, the source, the controller, and the source of highest happiness, then it's so easy to surrender. And this is the rare realization that Krishna is presenting here. To see Krishna everywhere. Now, coming in the next verses, Krishna is going to speak about those whose knowledge, vritta gyan, has been stolen by these material desires, and who don't approach Krishna. They're not the miscreants, but they are now approaching the demigods. So Krishna will explain that next week. So the summary here, again, is that everything we see is Krishna's energy, either inferior or superior. Nothing else. And he is the essence of all that is satisfying within those energies. He is the taste, the heat, the fragrance, the light, the intelligence, strength, prowess. He is everything. All the ability we have. It is Krishna himself present in his impersonal feature. And thus we should understand we are never disconnected from him. We are fully dependent on him. Everything we have, then it should be used in Krishna's service. And thus we should surrender. But why don't we see it? Maya. Deluded by the modes of nature. And if we want to overcome those modes very easily, though they are difficult, by the process of Krishna consciousness, devotional service, he can make it very easy for us. But because of envy, it becomes difficult. There are the 4 miscreants who do not surrender, and the 4 pious souls who begin to surrender. And thus Krishna has summarized in this opening section of Module 2, this middle section of Bhagavad Gita, all this knowledge of how to surrender to him. And from here, he'll continue to build upon this. So next week, we'll study the next set of verses in chapter 7. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki. Any comments or questions today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranams.
Prabhuji, I think so when we were doing the, was it the nectar of instruction or the nectar of devotion, we did, I think so you did give 4 examples for the 4 kinds of people. I can, for the 4 kinds of devotees, right? For the 4 kinds of pious devotees. I kind of remembered 3 of them, but I'm trying to figure out what the last one would be. I mean, I know the distressed would be like Gajendra. The desire of wealth would be probably Dhruva. Dhruva, and the inquisitive were the sages from Naimisharanya, right? And the 4th one is, who would that be, Prabhuji? Was it Prahlad? The one who's searching for the knowledge of the Absolute?
That we understand that to be Shukadev Goswami. That is one example. There are many, but Shukadev Goswami is the one I mentioned today,
Okay.
as he was in search, and as we know, Shukadev Goswami, initially his search was of more of an impersonal nature, and was then understood that he had to go beyond, just like the four Kumaras who were searching for
This was the one you gave last time from you, the four
four
Kumaras. actually.
Kumaras. Okay,
Yeah.
so they were both under.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dharma Pranam from Guru Sri Prabhupada Gurmani.
Hare Krishna. Dhanavad.
Thank you for a very wonderful class, Prabhuji. I'm a little bit not clear on this, the third and the fourth, like the inquisitive and the jnani. I know you said the jnani approach is like he approaches Krishna to get knowledge of the Supreme, right? And here, that is the, I think that's the jnani.
Yes, that's the Jnani.
Okay, and then there's another jnani that is a different kind of jnani, and this fourth is also a jnani, right? But on a different platform.
Yeah.
So can you explain that?
Yeah. So the third is the Jignasu, is the Sanskrit term. It means they are curious, inquisitive. So they have a curiosity that they want to satisfy, but they're not interested in understanding Krishna, but they want to know about the soul. So it is not yet progressed. So it is considered also part of the material desire, because it's not related to Krishna. So they have this curiosity. So as you go from distress to wealth to curiosity, the desire becomes a little more subtle and subtle. And then to the jnani, it is the most subtle, and not even in a material realm. It is a spiritual desire, not necessarily a devotional spiritual desire, but it is a desire to know. So this desire is very, very subtle. So if it's difficult to grasp, it's natural, because it's very subtle. That jnani is now close to the platform of becoming pure, in which the only desire is to please Krishna. So that jnani is different than the jnani yogi, who is pursuing the analysis of spirit and matter, right? Because this is on the platform of bhakti, beyond jnani yoga. So that's why we clarify the term, and this jnani is not referring to the jnani yogi, because they're still within the realm of bhakti. But they're called jnani because they are in search of knowledge, but knowledge about Krishna. So that is the distinction between 3 and 4, and also between 4 and the jnani yogi. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm just like trying to understand. So third one is a Jignasu, who is basically, you said, he's not interested actually in knowing or understanding Krishna at that point of time. He's basically wanting to satisfy his curiosity to know about the soul.
Correct.
Okay, and then we come to the fourth person who is pious. He is very, very close to coming to Bhakti Yoga. He has not come to Bhakti at this point of time. Can I say that?
No.
He has not come to
They all are in bhakti.
All of them are-
All 4 are in bhakti, but it's not pure bhakti. It's mixed bhakti. The first 3 are in karma mishra bhakti, because it's mixed with material desires. So it's not ananya bhakti. It's karma mishra bhakti or jnana mishra bhakti, because it's mixed with some other desires. But it is bhakti, because they are approaching Krishna. As soon as we approach Krishna, remember, it's bhakti.
Okay, yeah.
Right? It's just not yet pure devotional service.
Okay, I got it. So even Jnani, the fourth one is also not pure devotional service at this point of time, correct?
Correct. That's the distinction. It's not completely pure. It's not a material desire, but there's a desire to have knowledge of the absolute. So it's like a subtle desire. And that's why Krishna says that they are magnanimous, very, very pious. And then he says, by staying in devotional service, they will surely attain the highest goal. They'll come to that purest platform. So it's almost there, right, at that point. But not quite.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay? Hare Krishna. Yes, Roji.
I just want actually thanks for Madhavi for asking this question. So it was my doubt also. But if we say these 4 stages, they are progressive stages with bhakti, added light bhakti. So with respect to karma kanda, how can we understand? So is there a desire of karma kanda in between here?
No. Because the karma kanda is not approaching Krishna. So karma kanda, Krishna will explain next week in the next set of verses, where one approaches the demigods for their material desires. And he is going to describe such a person in not such glowing terms, but very accurate terms.
But for the desires also, people can approach to Krishna directly with respect to karma kanda principles, not only demigods.
Say that again?
Even for the material desires who are not in the level of bhakti, but they have the material desires, they can also approach Krishna with respect to karma kanda principle.
Well, we're mixing two concepts here. So, again, Krishna says that one with material desires approaches me. That is within the realm of bhakti. But it is not pure bhakti. And Dhruva Maharaj is the example, right? He performed devotional service. He made a murti out of mud and began to perform devotional service. But his desire was material. But why that person is considered so magnanimous? Because Krishna, when you approach Krishna with your material desires, he does 2 things. One, and most importantly, he purifies you of that desire. He frees you from that desire, because the desire is not good for you. But when you approach him, he purifies you of that desire. And 2, he only fulfills the desire to the extent it's good for you. Not good for satisfying your desire, good for your bhakti. Whereas when you approach the demigods, we'll discuss this next week, they will give to you according to the formula of the yajna, of the sacrifice, without consideration of whether it's good or bad for you. And we see this with some of the demons. They acquired such wounds, whether it was good or not bad for them, without consideration. So, when you approach Krishna with your material desires, it is still within the realm of bhakti. Because you are approaching Krishna. As soon as you approach Krishna, it comes to the platform of bhakti. But it is not pure because of the presence of these desires. The karma kanda is approaching the various devatas for your desires. But when you approach Krishna, there's not a specific yajna you do, right? You just approach Krishna, pray to him, and say, please give me some wealth. Please give me this. So that's the difference.
Sorry,
It makes sense?
there is a small transparency missing here because as per karma kanda also we can directly approach Krishna or Vishnu for getting the wealth or health, whatever we need. So that is what I am asking. When we say the second type of pious people who is approaching from the health and wealth, so this basically they are following through the karma kanda principles, not just through the bhakti. Through the bhakti is a different class. But when people approach to Narayan in different yajnas and sacrifice, there is a particular sacrifice mentioned for Narayan in karma kanda. So there is a particular process for a particular austerities are mentioned for Narayan in karma kanda.
Okay.
So with respect to that, I am asking, those are also considered as devotees. They are also approaching with bhakti. They have the material desire 100%, no doubt in that. And there is a process to approach to Narayan directly in the Karma Kanda. So they are also devotees.
Krishna said they are pious souls. Right? He said here they are pious souls. So they are devotees, but it is a dangerous position in bhakti because when that desire is fulfilled, one may go away from their bhakti if those desires overpower their desire to serve Krishna. So it is one to be.
It is always confusing because when we say Karma Kanda, there is also a way to approach Krishna in Karma Kanda itself. So it gets confusion for me always when I come to
That is not correct. Karma Kanda is not, because again, it's Karma Kanda is not approaching Krishna. You're indirectly approaching Krishna. He's going to explain that next week. All of that is an indirect worship ultimately to him. So we may consider something Karma Kanda, but it is not. So then this is where the confusion comes, because as soon as you approach Krishna, it's bhakti. We know bhakti to be the topmost rung of the ladder. Karma Kanda is not even on the yoga ladder because there is no transcendental goal. There's no desire to link with the Supreme.
That's true, Prabhu. Very true.
So but we sometimes mix these matters because they've been conventionally presented to us through different customs and different processes, and slowly they become adulterated a little bit. But it doesn't matter what the terms we put on them. What matters is what is the motive of my service and who is the object of my service. If the object of my service is Krishna and the motive is some material desires, then we know it's karma mishra bhakti. It's mixed bhakti. If the object of my service is some empowered agent of Krishna, the different demigods, and my motive is some material desires, it is not bhakti. We can put the label karma kanda. No, you can put any other label. It doesn't matter. The label doesn't matter. What matters is what is the result of that worship. Then, if the object of my worship is Krishna and the objective of my worship is his pleasure, that is pure devotional service, as compared to the purpose, right? In the other, which is some material desire. So that's the understanding. Again, if the labels get mixed and confused a little bit, it's not so important. What's important is to understand and establish what is the best outcome for me. What is the best of all of these different options? What is best for me? What is the highest? Krishna has said, worship me with no desires. Then you will achieve the supreme, absolute destination. That's pure devotional service. He'll begin to discuss that in more detail in chapter 8. Right? So, again, labels are labels, but let's get beyond the label and understand what is it that actually is the best situation for me, and what are the disadvantages of all the other options. The disadvantage of mixed bhakti, of going to Krishna with material desires, is that you may go away once you get your desire fulfilled. And you'll not get the full rasa of bhakti. So that is so we must acquire knowledge to understand what are the pros and cons of these different angles of bhakti, and then in our heart establish the goal of our worship. And what Krishna is telling us, ultimately, sarva dharma, all other principles. Give them up. And just surrender into me. He says, Man mana, think of me only. Become my devotee. Right? So that he is bringing us through the discussion with Arjuna to this platform. Is that okay, Prabhu? Yeah. Just the descriptions and things like that. Again, just understand that sometimes they get a little bit confused. Even labels have maybe varieties of meanings, so that's okay. We can accommodate that. Understand beyond the label, what is the content of each of those processes, right? Just like a product, two bottles of milk, there may be different labels on it describing the same thing. So we can allow a little bit of variety of the label, but focus on what's the content of each process and the result and the benefit and disadvantages, and then we can segment these nicely. And the labels become helpful, but not the essential principle.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, so we say that these many billions and zillions of people in the world are envious of Krishna. That is one fact. With that fact being said, how one would have the strong conviction of Krishna being the source of all essence and control?
Can you say that last piece again, Prabhu?
No, like with the fact of everyone in this world are envious of Krishna, how would one can develop the strong conviction of, okay, Krishna is now being the source of all essence and control? Because I'm envious of Krishna already that I'm here.
Yes.
And how all of a sudden I can have that, I can get that complete conviction.
Oh, got it. Well, you have to purify of the envy. You have to become free of the envy. Because until we become free of the envy, we'll think, well, no, Krishna is not the controller, I'm the controller. So how to become free of the envy? Well, if we acknowledge that each time we think we are the controller, we are proven over and over and over again we are not, and that all of our attempts to enjoy are being thwarted by the modes of material nature, we'll come to know, after being slapped over and 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 over again, that I'm not in control. If I was in control, why would I ever fail? Nobody chooses to fail. Nobody chooses to get sick. Nobody chooses to crash their car. But why does it happen? I'm not in control. So at least nobody can argue that they are in control. Why does it rain on our picnic? So I'm not in control. Now, you may not agree that Krishna is in control, but every sane person would agree they're not in control. Otherwise, they would never fail. They would never get sick. They'd be perfect. And they have to agree that there is some higher power than them because they can't control the outcome. Something else is controlling it. Maybe they can't agree it's Krishna, they think it's just nature. But whatever it is, there's some higher power that is in control. And by coming into Krishna consciousness, coming to understand the science, it is a science. One will slowly see and understand. No, there is a person behind this. Just as there is a person behind everything that we see in this world, there's a person behind this world. And that'll bring us to Krishna. So you're right. Until the envy is purified will not fully acknowledge and understand Krishna's presence. But by hearing these statements, it at least catches us to think, wow, maybe this is the case. And by practice of devotional service, one purifies and one faith develops and solidifies. But at a minimum, everyone agrees unequivocally they're not in control.
And also it's difficult to digest. These many people here are envious of Krishna. You know, like it doesn't resonate completely. Like every part of this material world, of all of people who are here, is envious of the Supreme is something very difficult to digest for them.
Yeah, because envy is a very dirty quality, right? So your inability to digest it is out of the sweetness of your heart. Because we don't want, we want to believe in, that no, how we can all be envious of Krishna. Right? It's a very dirty and sinister quality. So that is there. Now remember, while there are, as you said, zillions of living entities in this world, in comparison to the total, it is a small fraction. The vast, vast majority of living entities have never become envious of Krishna. They are Nitya Mukta. They are eternally liberated. The vast majority of living entities never become envious. So we are in the minority. Just like in a prison, when you're looking in the prison house, you're thinking, wow, how can there be so many prisoners? How did we all do something so bad? But from the complete view, we see, well, the prisoners are still a very small percentage of overall society. Most have not gone to prison. So like that, in the totality of creation, those in the material world represent the minority of the living entities. The small portion. So, and that envy, remember, it can be easily overcome. So we should also have great confidence that while it is present everywhere, we can eradicate it very quickly and easily by chanting the holy names. And that is what we aspire to do and aspire to inspire others to do. So that not only we become free of envy, but everyone around us can also become free. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhu, sure, but the example was good. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one question I had.